In a stunning attack on Washington, Turkey's foreign minister says U.S. forces in Syria should wear the insignia of terror groups.
When they go to other areas of Syria, I advise them to wear ISIL al-Nusra or al-Qaeda arm badges and to wear Boko Haram badges in Africa.
And the shock accusation came after U.S. elite troops were spotted in Syria wearing the insignia of Kurdish fighters whom Ankara calls terrorists. The troops were equipped with low-profile helmets as well as Mk-47 automatic grenade launchers, both typically used by U.S. Special Forces. The uproar over their involvement intensified after reporters probed the Pentagon on whether U.S. soldiers are even leading the fighting. However, despite being pictured armed to the teeth alongside Kurds advancing on Islamic State's de facto capital, the Pentagon insists its troops are only there to assist and advise. But Washington's suspect role in Syria is not its only major headache in the region. It now faces a serious rift with key ally Turkey. Gayane Chichikan now with more on the diplomatic spat between the NATO states.
When the images just came out, the Pentagon said, well, it's common practice for U.S. forces to wear the insignia of those they partner with to better connect with them.
Special Operations Forces, when they operate in certain areas, do what they can to, if you will, blend in with the community, to enhance their own protection, their own security.
Well, 24 hours later, that fine tradition abruptly came to an end.
Wearing those YPG patches was unauthorized and it was inappropriate, and corrective action has been taken.
That statement came in response to a reporter's question about Turkey's complaint, which very well suggests that U.S. officials told American forces to stop wearing Kurdish patches on their uniforms because their ally Turkey doesn't like that. And this has prompted my question for the State Department here. Is Turkey really an ally when they view America's partner forces on the ground, the YPG, the patches of which U.S. troops are wearing on their uniforms right now, as terrorists?
The goal here is to destroy and degrade Daesh and remove them from the battlefield. Frankly, it is a goal we share, but it's a goal we share with all members of the ISSG. It's a goal we share with all members of the anti-Daesh coalition. Now, are there disagreements among members of the coalition as to how we proceed and with whom we're cooperating on the ground? I'm not going to say that there aren't. We're going to continue to work with the YPG as a part of the overarching Syrian Democratic Forces.
The U.S. seems to be walking this very fine line between trying to appease Turkey, trying to keep it as an ally for a variety of reasons, including access to Turkey's Incirlik air base, and saying, no, people who you, Turkey, consider terrorists are our friends and partners. That is not an easy line to walk.
Earlier, we discussed the presence of American special forces in Syria with Michael Maloof, a former security policy analyst to the U.S. Defense Secretary, and Jack Rice, a former CIA officer.
The administration makes a very fine distinction between training and advisory role and combat role. They're there in an advisory role. However, training and advisory role, as we're beginning to see, can become a very quick, slippery slope, as we would refer to it here. And they immediately find themselves engaged in combat because there's no battle lines per se. It's they shift constantly. And that's precisely what has happened on a few occasions, resulting in the death at least of one Navy SEAL.
The Turks regularly have seen every opportunity to take out the Kurds, not just in eastern Turkey, but also in northern Syria, northern Iraq. The Americans have called the PKK, which are the Kurdish groups in Turkey, as terrorists. And yet at the same time, the Americans south of the border with Turkey and Syria have seen the best fighters that the Americans see as their closest allies as Kurds, and frankly, they're the same thing as the PKK. They're just south of the border. That's one of the very real problems in this war that the Americans and, frankly, the Turks do not want to acknowledge.
And with the U.S. struggling for ground allies to combat ISIL in Syria, it appears one of its latest hopes might have been dashed.
Can you tell us what the total number of trained fighters remains?
It's a small number, and the ones that are in the fight is we're talking four or five.
This is a total failure. It's just a failure.
An armored vehicle barreled into the rebels' base shortly before dawn on May 7th, killing a number of them. The attack came as a heavy blow to a force that was already small and suffering from a lack of weaponry and equipment that had been promised but not delivered.